JC will be talking about the voices of the Nayanmars and the Azhwars, and it will be a very illuminating talk.
With an electronics engineering background, Jayachandran started his career as a software engineer with Wipro. Later served as assistant professor at Kalakshetra. Jayachandran started Bharatanatyam training under Srimati Meera Narayanan and Sri Gopinathan. Later, his dance education was broadened under the tutelage of Srimati Leela Sampson, Professor C.V. Chandrasekhar and Srimati Jaya Chandrasekhar and Srimati Prega Basil. Jayachandran completed his diploma in Shaiva Siddhanta, BA History. He has researched significantly on the temples of paper. Tiruvarur Sthalam, as interpreted in Srimati Rukmini Devi's choreography, has won him the Best Lecture Demonstration Award from Vikram Khan Dance Company, UK. As a performer, Jayachandran has performed many solo shows. He has choreographed solo and group thematic works, a sort of the speaker and a resource person. Jayachandran has delivered several lectures.
Namaste. I welcome you all for this lecture on the voices of Nayanmar and Azhwar as part of the Nirvighnam conference, a conference which celebrates texts and traditions. Even before I get into the topic, I wish to pay my obeisance to Nandi, as mentioned by Tirumular. Nandi Arulale, Nadanam Per Petrom. Nandi Arulale, Mulane Nadinom. Nandi Arulavadu Enseyum Natinil. Nandi Vadigata Nanirindhen. With the grace of Nandi, we attained greater heights. With the grace of Nandi, we reached the originary principles. With the grace of Nandi, I entered into Shiva. I sat as Shiva and I became Shivam, says Tirumular. A very mystical poetry, while Tirumular, being one of the important mystic Shaivite Siddha saint poets who wrote in Tamil through his text called Thirumandiram, expounds many philosophical, especially rational ideas, which were more or less capsuled into his entire compendium called Thirumandiram, which is a compilation of 3,000 and odd songs. Why am I speaking about this when we are supposed to speak about Azhwar and Nayanmar? Tirumular is also one among the Nayanmar, Tirumula Nayanmar, Tirumula Nayanar, as he is called, from the Shaivite point of view. Let us break the entire title of the talk, the voices of the Azhwars and the Nayanmars. I wish to explain the word voice here. According to this lecture, the word voice refers not just the articulated sound as we speak. It is also about the way the reflections and the counter reflections of the thought, of the idea. The what of any given thought, the what, the idea, is what being encapsulated in the poetries. The what becomes very important. It's called the icon. But it is very important that the what is getting reflected. It has a reflection. It has a dhvani. The idea gets reflected and finds its expression through poetry. So there are an umpteen number of poetries, especially written by the Azhwars, 12 great Azhwars, who wrote in such chaste Tamil, the 12 of them being Poigai, Bodhak, Bodhattalvar, Peyalvar, Tirumalizai Alvar, Nammalvar, Kulasekara Alvar, Periyalvar, Tondaradipodi Alvar, Thirumangai Alvar, Madarakavi Alvar, Andal, and Periyalvar. We have already mentioned. But the question is, among them, some of them may not include Andal and Madarakavi to be part of the entire 12 Azhwars. But nevertheless, the collection of the 12, Poigai, Bodhappei, Tirumalizai, Namkulasegaran, Periya, Andal, Tondaradipudi, Tiruppan, Tirumangai, and Madarakavi, their compilation of text is called as the verses, the sacred verses of 4000. The name of the text is called Nalayiradivya Prabandham. While the number of Nayanmars are 63 and 10, 63 individuals and 10 as group. Well, all of them are not poets. Only some of them were poets. 4 major poets within the Nayanmar section, within the Nayanmars compendium, if you wish to call. The first among them being Thiruñana Sambandar, followed by Tirunavukkarasar, also called as Appar. Then comes Sundaramurthy, then comes Manikavachakar. The works, the poetry of the first 3, Thiruñana Sambandar, Navukkarasar, and Sundarar, are called as Devaram, while the works of Manikavachakar is called as Tiruvasagam and Tirukkovayar. But having said this, when this talk investigates about, as I mentioned, about the varied voices of it, we would take one poetry from the Azhwar section, from the entire works of Azhwar, one poetry. I wish to quote a very famous poetry, a song written by none other than Andal Nachiyar. In her Nachiyar Tirumozhi, she pours, she exactly wish to say is that she completely condenses the idea of Madhura Bhakti in one of the songs, which completely expounds the thought. It's a question raised by Andal herself, the lover, in conversation with a conch, a white conch. Karpuram narumo, kamalappu narumo, sempavalat chevvaidan tittittirukkumo. Oh, the white conch, will his mouth smell like the camphor? Or will it smell like the red lotus? Will it taste like the most sweetest nectar? Maruppositta Madhavan தன் வாய்ச்சுவையும் நாற்றமும் மறுப்பு ஒசித்த மாதவன். One who slayed the rutted elephant. This incident gives us a clue in the court of Kamsa, what happened during Kamsavada, where he slayed the elephant Kolepeta. But while slaying the elephant, Sri Krishna, the Madhava, got reminded, it's said in Gita Govindam that he got reminded of Radha's bosoms, or Nappidnai's bosoms, as Tamil tradition would say. மறுபொசித்த மாதவன் தன் வாய்ச்சுவையும் நாற்றமும் விருப்புற்று கேட்கின்றேன். With lot of love, I'm asking, சொல் ஆழி வெண்சங்கே. Please tell, oh, the white conch of the deep ocean. This is the poetry of Andal, where she is asking the smell and the taste of Madhava's lips. Another contrasting poetry by Navukarasar. This particular song has been attributed to the sacred site called Sri Kalahasti, where the poet says, Ve anayatol umai or bhagamaduvaga. There was one divine damsel, or there is a divine damsel, whose shoulders and the arm resemble that of a bamboo. And she's Uma. And there is one man who has a woman of that quality to be his half. But this couple ride on the bull. And this man, with his matted lock, wears the crescent moon and roams in the crematorium of the mountain. Vei anayatol umayor bhagam aduvaga. Vidai yeri, riding the bull. Sadai meer tuya madisudi. On his jata, he is wearing the pure crescent moon. Sudugadi nadamadi, malai tannai vinavil. And he is riding on the bull and roaming around in the Sudugadu, the crematorium of the mountain. Which mountain will host such an event? Is a question raised by Navukarasar. While the answer the author gives is, it's a mountain where once a hunter poured water through his mouth. Made his mouth to be the sacred water pot and poured water through his mouth. Vai kalasamaga vazhipadu seyyum vedan malarana nayanam kai kanayinal adarndu. One who took a bow to vanquish or to eradicate or to stop, to close the physical mortal eye with a bow. His eye he compares to a flower. When this flower shuts, there's another world which opens. That he says, Vai kalasamaga vazhipadu seyyum vedan malarana nayanam kai kanayinal adarndu. When he stuck the arrow into his eyes, suddenly when this mortal eyes became blindfolded, another eye opened into another world, and a strange phenomena happened, that he could see the sacred feet of Lord himself. Isanadi Kudu Kalatti Malaye, a place called Sri Kalahasti, where sacred Shiva's feet could be taken darshan. Now, why are we explaining about these two ideas? This is completely about touch. While there's a question of taste and smell in Andal's poetry, the voice is not just about the poetical essence and beauty of it. It is about a very, very different honing of their sensory capacity to fathom the unfathomed. While in the question raised, when it comes to the song of Sri Kalahasti, it's about the experience one undergoes when is investigating on touch. Because as the legend of Kannappar goes, he touched the body of Shiva with his feet. Henceforth, that touch, the Vayu, because touch is associated with Vayu. The special quality of Vayu is touch. Vishesha guna of Vayu. The special quality of earth is smell. Prithvi Gandhavati. So in the first song, we are describing about Prithvi. Second song, we are describing about Vayu. Andal, character itself, is an embodiment of earth. She is from the earth. She is associated with flowers. Now, she is associated with a very interesting motif called smell and taste. Parimala and Madhuram. These are two important words associated with Andal Nachiyar herself. While when it comes to Kannappar, he is associated with Vayu, touch. When touch happens in the appropriate time, actually the deepest of the deepest knowledge emanates. Coming to speak about smell, the Tamil community itself had a very, very old connection to this idea of smell. For them, emotions are classified into five scapes. They are called as landscapes. And any discussion on emotions and internal thought and being is called as agam, the interiors. It's called the agam literature. The grammar was written. Interestingly, the Tamil grammar on agam has its origin in a diabolic argument between Lord Shiva as Irayanar and Nakirar, the court poet of Madurai court. During the Sangam period, this argument between the poet and Shiva on a very fundamental issue, that does the hair of a woman has natural fragrance or an induced fragrance? This question might be completely out of context in any modern discussion. But I wish to appraise that this question throws a very important space to us, a challenge to us, that the people of this particular era were far more sensitive, far familiar with the inner being, familiar with homunculus, the inner self. The question was about fragrance, and this question was not considered something any normal. It becomes the crux of the matter for the entire grammar to evolve on Agam. Agam literature speaks about 5 lands, in turn 5 emotions. And interestingly, the 5 lands are named after 5 flowers. Flowers, especially in the old Tamil literature, reflects emotions. Flower is the fragrance of the flower is the summum bonum of emotions of a given place. In order to describe a land, they describe the nature of the flower of the land. In order to describe the culture of a land, the dance, the music, the emotion, the season, the time, they just name it by a flower. Fragrance has all these material encoded in it. In fact, fragrance or smell is a special quality of Prithvi. I repeat it. To know about a land, to know about a people, to know the emotion, the best way is to speak about their land. Andal is an embodiment of the emotion of that particular soil. She was a poetess, but stands as one touchstone to reflect the entire Sangam literature's emotional matrix, but anchored towards a very lofty divine abstract notion or the ineffable entity called Sriman Narayana. What happens if humanity has an emotion towards an ineffable, undescribable, and very difficult to narrate an experiential entity called Sriman Narayana? Thus, the story of Andal is born. If you carefully watch, she herself wears flowers. Her father, Periyalvar, is a garland maker. The art of garland making is not just collecting group of flowers, colorful flowers, and making garland, but it's an art of harmonizing perfumes of flowers together. It's presenting a bouquet of perfume to the Lord. They knew the quality, the summum bonum of perfume to be presented, along with leaves, with perfumed leaves and scented tendrils, and many things come together. Then this particular gandha mixes with the sweat of Andal, which is burning with tapa, with love for Sriman Narayana. The sweat of her viraha, especially in the head, mixes with the garland, and that garland is what Narayana is inhaling as Andal. When one of the garland did not have presented to him, did not have the perfume of Andal that day, Periyalvar daily, it's a ritual that most of us know the story of Andal. But Andal used to wear these flowers kept to be presented for Narayana. She wore it daily, but one day, because the way Periyalvar reprimanded, she did not wear it, or she wore it and it was discarded, and he created a new garland and went and served it to the Lord. Lord refrained, read it, and said, I want that flower garland. Because he himself is Ranganatha, the Parimala Ranganatha. He is Ranganatha who is full of perfume. He wanted that perfume to mix with this perfume. The question what Andal asks in this particular song, Karpuram Narumo, Kamalapu Narumo, this question is about smell. Smell becomes so important here. Smell becomes a very important entity to reflect emotion, especially love, and taste. Another important connection is taste and smell are connected, interconnected. Both of them work in the same space in the neural networking in the brain, and especially the same part of the brain gets excited when it speaks when we are investigating with taste and smell. And especially when it comes to taste, food, there is a ritual till recently that a food smelt is half consumed. That's why food are not supposed to be inhaled before presenting it to any guest or even to Lord. Smelling the food is half consumption. Even when we offer the food to Lord, we offer the smell of it first. It's considered half consumed. The takeaway point here is, when it comes to the story of Andal, smell, taste, or the sensory sharpness, the sensory acumen of such mystical explanation is quite rare and very, very difficult in current standards of ways and lives, even to comprehend what such voices are speaking to us. While in the story of Kannapar, the hunter, who found the Lord in the mid of the forest, and who could contribute his entire life in existence of it, in existence of touch. Then he opened into another world of Vayu, another world of touch, and he remained in that touch and called that instance as Vayulinga. One question: how many of us can even remember the smell and taste what we had without the object being there, what we consumed, devoured, have the smell and taste for more than a few seconds, for more than a few minutes? Can we remember it? Can we savor it? I think some of us have a capacity to hone it for a few minutes, maybe for an hour, maximum for maybe a few hours if trained. But Andal has underwent a sadhana of constantly smelling it in her imaginary reality called Sriman Narayana. She is constantly smelling it. How can you train a mind? This is the voice. She says her sadhana, that her submission, it can be easily summed up to say submission, prapatti is the way. But that is not so easy. It has an extremely reasoned voice in it. That voice is what this talk is taking it out. How do we remember someone's touch? And how do you just stay with that touch constantly, 24/7, 365 days, till your death? The touch you are not supposed to forget. Such experiences, such experiential realities getting symbolized through poetries and Sthala Puranas of the Shaivites and the Vaishnavites becomes very important documentation of the capacity of a human to interact with senses, in turn to interact with the Panchamahabhutas. The question was very simple. These voices were searching for one samambona question. What is the principle of ordering and principle of origin of this reality? And the measuring tool, what they took are the sensory organs through which they measured the unfathomable reality. While the Vaishnavites called it as Sriman, that reality to be called as Sriman Narayana, while Shaivite called it as Paramashiva. Well, the question on reality is still not exhausted. It still continues. But the very important documentation here is that it is voiced, it is documented, and the question still lingers. Namaste.